Yeah, I think there's a misnomer that technology is changing the industry. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, you've got to pick up the fucking dumbbell. Your iPhone's not a dumbbell. I mean, as much as you'd like to maybe think it might be, I fall into the trap of not making the time to do the very simple things that it takes to stay in decent shape and to move. And there's no substitute for that.
Hey, fitness fans, welcome back to the Future of Fitness podcast and interview series. This is your host, Eric Malzone, and this is episode number 53. I talked to Andy Petranek. So I've known Andy for a little bit. He's been in the industry for a little bit longer, and this was just a lot of fun. He's a really fun guy, super energetic. He's got one of the most infectious laughs that you'll ever hear, and you get the pleasure of hearing it several times throughout this interview. And like I said, I just had a great time. Now, before I get into a little bit more details about who Andy is and what this interview covers, I want to challenge you with a call to action. So if you are a fitness professional and you're interested in being part of a conversation that is all about the advancement of the industry and moving into the future, then you should go check out the Modern Fitness Pro. It's a closed Facebook group and it is by application only. If you submit an application and you are accepted, you'll be part of that conversation, along with 2,000 fitness professionals from all over the world. So go check it out. I hope to see you there. So let's get on to Andy. So Andy has been a fitness professional for, I believe, about 25 years. So he founded CrossFit Los Angeles, which is one of the first, I believe, top 50, if not less, of CrossFit affiliates in the world. He started the Biz Raise Your Game, which was a consulting group for CrossFit affiliates, one of the very first ones. He started the Whole Life Challenge, which is a very unique life and lifestyle nutrition challenge. It's the wholelifechallenge.com. You can check it out. He has a podcast, which is now being changed from the Whole Life Challenge podcast to the Andy Petranek podcast. And he's really investing some more time, as he says, coming out from behind the curtain and developing his personal brand. So he was also a mentor of mine along the way. He was one of the very first business coaches I had within the CrossFit affiliate world. So I'm very thankful for that as well. So without further ado, a lot to talk about in this, a lot of great action items and information that will help you. So number 53, this is Andy Petranek. Hope you enjoy. Hey, fitness fans, welcome back to the Future of Fitness podcast and interview series. And today I have a very, very special guest. I always say that, but this time it's very much true. This is Andy Petranek. And Andy, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Yeah. I'm really happy to have you here. So I always really get fired up for interviews where I get to talk to one of my mentors along the way, right? Which you were, when you and Birch are running the Biz, and then Traver and I hired you to be our mentor for the business. It's always cool to kind of come back full circle and talk about all that, because to see not only, how my journey's changed, but how yours has changed in multiple.
Yeah, right.
I think that's the coolest thing. So let's give people an introduction to who you are. Let's, tell them who you are, what you do, what you stand for within the fitness community.
Okay.
And, I'll let you go from there.
I have a very hard time keeping this short, so I'm going to do my best. You can just cut me off if I start rambling. Okay. So I've been in the fitness world for about 25 years. I was a Marine. I was a professional adventure racer. I got into the fitness business because people kept asking me, how do you get in shape? How do you get in the shape that you're in? And I just kind of fell into it. I got certified through the CHEK Institute in San Diego, and then originally, and then I went back for more classes and stuff in UCLA, and built a pretty strong personal training business that was mostly corrective exercise based. And then I found CrossFit. And opened up CrossFit LA, which at the time was called Petranek Fitness, and was one of the first 10 or so in the world. And that was in 2004. I was a little bit of a whack job, early adopter. Everyone that I knew that was a trainer looked at what I was doing and thought I'd completely lost my mind. And somehow I had this vision that anyone that came into my gym would have to do CrossFit. And it wasn't a vision like I knew what that would lead to. It was more like, I just want everybody to have the same experience when they walk in here. And so I didn't let any of my friends who were personal trainers come and train their clients. Like, that was really the upshot of it, which was a big gamble at the time. I definitely needed the revenue. And I was like, yeah, sorry, not going to happen.
Yeah.
And built that. The first couple of years was really, really tough. There was really not a lot of momentum in the CrossFit world. There was everything I got, all the publicity I got of my own accord. I knew some reporters. I got mentioned. I got an article written in the LA Times. 2 years in, I was like, this is not working. And I had to fit. I was like, I'm having my wife's having my son, and how do I not work 12-hour days, 6 days a week, and still make this work? I felt like the highest paid slave. And I just so happened to meet John Birch, and John had identified me and the program, and basically he was looking for a trainer. He was looking for someone who he could learn from in terms of my experience as training as a coach. But he also had a lot of business expertise, and he basically pegged me. He's like, you're the highest paid slave. Here's a list of things you're probably not doing. And he was right on all accounts. And his message was compelling enough to have me go, you know what, I'm gonna listen to this guy. I'm gonna pay him a modest. It was a very small fee actually for consulting, because he knew I had no money. And we basically took what I was doing and we systematized it. And we created a system that had its roots in the Taekwondo world with kids, and we basically adapted it for adults, and we adapted it for CrossFit, and we created a real schedule, and we hired full-time coaches, and we turned it into a real business as opposed to a job. And it was so successful over like 3 years. I went from, I like doubled the business in 1 year, and then doubled again, I think. I don't know if it doubled, but it was close to doubling again. And then we were like, well, we got to share this with the rest of the CrossFit world. It's too good of a thing. And we built the biz, and that's what you mentioned before, me and Birch. And we started teaching the system, and the system worked really, really well. Really up until like 2011, which was right when I changed over to doing what I do now, which is building the Whole Life Challenge. I didn't change in 2011. I was still running the gym. And 2011 really was kind of a shift in the world of CrossFit, I think, in terms of the world started to notice in a really profound way, and it started to explode. And they noticed mostly because of the CrossFit Games. And as exciting as that was, CrossFit Games athletes are not my customers. CrossFit Games athletes are very rare, the very rare few people. Most of them, they're just not paying clients. They're not enough to support your ship, or my ship. And that's where I kind of started to diverge from, wow, this system has been great, but it's not as great anymore. And there were too many other CrossFit gyms suddenly popping up. We were literally the only one in Southern California for quite some time. At this point in 2011, you could go from Beverly Hills to West LA, and you could hit like 3 or 4 different CrossFit. Now it's like, I don't know, 10 or 12. And I always felt like it's important for me as a ethical business owner to tell people when they call, hey, I want to come into your gym. Well, that's great. We're really, really good, and we're at what we do, and we'd love to have you. But did you know there are 3 other gyms between your house and us that you can go to? Because we don't want them to feel like we bait and switch them, and they learn about these other CrossFit gyms 3 months into being a member. If convenience is the most important thing for them. So it became harder and harder, and we slowly kind of saw that. We saw diminishing memberships, and we had to kind of change things up. And that was right around the same time I started to think about selling the gym, and I ended up selling it to my former head coach, Kenny Kane. And I worked really hard on that last year to implement a system that I learned through Craig Patterson. It's called MadLab.
Yep.
And not because Patty is so great or not great, whatever you think of Patty, I felt like he had a really solid system. It was really about building relationship with people and getting back to the idea that the relationship is the heart of the business, rather than group classes, rather than, paying a trainer on the floor $20 an hour to teach a group class. Like, it's really about individual relationships, and trainers cut their teeth in developing these deep relationships with people and learn how to really be good trainers. They have to, their livelihood is on the hook for delivering value to people. And that's really what we implemented. And Kenny's now full bore with that system. I'm not sure where he is with it because I'm really out of that business. In 2015, I sold the gym, and really because I wanted to focus 100% on the Whole Life Challenge. And the Whole Life Challenge now has ballooned from being a little thing that we started at the gym, this little health and wellness game that we added, nutrition and mobility and well-being practices and sleep on top of a fitness challenge that I was already running. And we went from 150 in that first challenge to now in this current New Year's challenge with 27,000, almost 28,000 people around the world. Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. We're doing 4 this year. We actually have just reduced the length of each one from 8 weeks to 6 weeks. And we're doing 1 a quarter. So we'll have a spring challenge and then a summer challenge and then a fall challenge. And God, it's just exciting. It's really, really, really fun. We deliver it in a way that almost no one else does. It's limited. You can't just join the challenge anytime you want to. And it's also very, a lot of people that know me as a Marine or that was like a hardcore athlete are surprised at how gentle the challenge is. It's not like the next great 500-mile adventure. How many meters can you row in a month? It's not at all that kind of a challenge. And it could be. One of the things we always say about the challenge is it's universally malleable. It meets anyone anywhere they are, and it allows them to use it to fill in the holes that they see in their health and well-being in and around 7 daily habits. Yeah. So we have grandmothers that do it, and we have 17-year-old hardcore athletes that are using it, and they use it for very different reasons.
Well, I remember a lot. And first of all, I know you haven't mentioned this, but people should know that you were a CrossFit Games athlete. Was it 2009?
Right. Yep.
Yeah, I was there.
That was in 2000. Did you say 2009?
Yeah.
2009. Yeah. It was the last time I was in Aromas.
Yep. I was there for that. I remember watching you run up a hill with a sandbag on your shoulder. I was like,
yeah, I think I got in. And I think I might have taken last place. I don't know how. I was way down. Yeah. I remember
How old were you? Do you remember?
I was old. I was the oldest guy there.
Yeah.
I was 43, I think, 42. And I remember the misery of trying to drive a post into the dirt off of a rower. You got off the rower. And, if it seemed like, I have no idea. I don't know how they guaranteed that the smoothness of the dirt was equal.
They couldn't.
I don't think so.
Some people look like they're hitting a rock.
That's what I felt like. I was hitting a rock. I don't know. I'm going to go to the grave thinking I was hitting a fucking rock.
Yeah, I think you were.
Fudging.
I was like, I actually said, I think Andy's hitting a rock.
I mean, the rock might have only been that big, but it was hitting something that was not allowing it to go in. Other people would take one swipe and the freaking thing would go in like 6 inches. Yeah. It was miserable.
I also remember, I believe we were one of your first, the gym we had, Traver and I, we were one of your first betas for the Whole Life.
I think so, yeah. Yep.
And it was...
Well, that was because we started that program with very small groups.
Yeah.
Started in a big, huge.
And it opened my mind. I was like, oh, wow, yeah, we don't have to do our nutrition challenges don't have to be a strict paleo for 4 weeks where we're just like,
right.
We had an FU paleo board. I remember when we did our first couple challenges where people could go and bitch about how much they hated it. I was like, that doesn't seem right. Like people should be enjoying this. And I also remember.
Well, maybe not enjoying it. Enjoying is probably the wrong word, but they should be respecting it.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I like it. And I remember your business partner, Michael Stanwyck too, poor guy, was like, we're constantly like, your website's not working. Your website. We were such assholes.
Through, oh my God. It's kind of amazing we're still in business because we didn't really realize that we were going into the software business, into the tech business. And, you know, I think back to a couple of those challenges that were horrendous. I mean, I remember the first worldwide challenge. The game wasn't ready to go on day one. And we didn't tell anybody, but like Birch was like, the show's got to go on, guys. We can't go back. We can't change the date. We're not changing the date. We got to go. Birch had brought in all these people from the biz to come do the challenge. And like, all right. And I remember, you know, customer service, there were thousands of emails of problems because it wasn't everyone. It was, you know, we had, I think 7,500 people in that challenge, and it wasn't everyone that had a problem, but man, the ones that did, there were many, many, many sleepless nights.
Yeah.
And somehow they stuck with us. So,
well,
some people said F you and took off, but I don't blame them. You know, we just didn't know.
Well, ready, fire, aim. That's what we say. You know?
Yeah. That's what it was.
You got to get started. So I'm curious because I know you're also, you're very much into personal development. And I know a lot of almost all of your coaches, I'd imagine, had to go through some kind of personal development at your gym, right? The shift. So when I heard that you were selling your gym, I was shocked. I was like, wow, this is CFLA. This is like the pedestal, right? This is the gym that everybody was like, you know, so when you made that announcement and you started changing, I'm just curious, what was going on in your own head? You know, you're like, okay, now I'm going into whole life challenge. Like I'm going into this, you know, what doubts or fears did you have to overcome to make that shift at that point in your life? You know, you have a kid, you have a wife, you know, there's a lot of things going on in your life. Talk about that moment, because I think there's a lot of people out there who are like, you know what, maybe the gym life isn't it for me anymore. Maybe something else that's a greater purpose or a different purpose for me to do.
Yeah, well, you know, first of all, it wasn't a massive risk. You know, I had already decided, we looked at the money that we were making in the challenge. And it's not like we're rolling in dough. I mean, it's funny because if you do the math and you say, oh, well, those guys are making $49 a person on 27,000 people. Holy crap, they made $1 million.
Yeah. Well,
Google and Facebook and all the websites out there that have hired developers for top dollar, Apple, they have made the market for developers so lucrative that you can't get a developer to join you unless they're a founder or without paying them top dollar. So it's like a fire hose, the money that we have to spend on development of this product, and it's not free. And you know, let me just put to rest that we're not just becoming overnight, you know, millionaires on this product. That was our first idea. We were like, oh, we'll build it, we'll sell it, we'll get people to come do it, and then we'll be done building it, and everything else is just profit. That's what we thought in our naivety.
Naivety? Yeah, that's right. We got it.
So I had mitigated a lot of the risk by building it up for long enough that I knew it could support the base layer of income that I was willing to live with or able to live with. So it wasn't it wasn't like I was going to Vegas and rolling craps and seeing what would happen. And I think pretty much every step that I've taken in my life has been that sort of I'm not a huge risk taker. In fact, I wouldn't even describe myself as a risk taker at all. I hate poker. I don't hate poker. I don't play poker very often. I don't really like to go gamble in Vegas. I'd rather go to see, you know, Cirque du Soleil or, you know, take a run on the strip or enjoy the desert, or there are a lot of other things I'd much rather do. So mitigating the risk was a big thing, but it still felt like a risk. It didn't, you know, don't get me wrong. And the other big thing for me was getting past the idea that because I had built something up, I couldn't leave it. Like nobody could do it as well as I could. And that was a hard thing to let go of, you know, my home. my baby, my community, my thing, thinking that the only person that could do this was me. And once I did, it was so freeing. Once it all happened, I also made the decision at the time to not maintain even a partial ownership stake, because I didn't want to walk into the gym, realize that I had no ability to really do anything because I only had 20% stake in the business, and then be pissed off at all the shit that was going not the way I wanted it to go. That just sounded miserable to me.
Yeah.
So letting go with it. And what's funny is I've been able to maintain a really great relationship with Kenny. I've actually been continuing coaching classes. I'm probably ending that very, very, very soon, maybe like next week. And I still train there, pretty unique in the world from what I understand. I mean, I don't really, you probably talk to way more owners than I do. But from what I understand, it's pretty unique that a former owner continues to have a good relationship with the new owners of especially an established program like we have.
Yeah. Well, I can say I do talk to a lot of owners, but I can say also from personal experiences, I sold my gym back in June after 8+ years, and I sold it to Danny Russell, who's as well head coach, extremely competent. And, I had all those same things. I'm like, well, it's your ego, right? You're like, oh, yeah. No one can run it the way I did. Sure.
Yeah, right.
He's running it amazingly well, and everybody's super happy. Yeah. And I'm not there anymore, and I'm not even sure people remember that. Right. That's just the reality of it all. Yeah,
I come into my noon class because I still take noon class probably 2 or 3 days a week, and I just don't have the same. People don't look at me the same way anymore. Like I have a new pair of shoes on and they're not looking at me like, hey, what are those shoes? I want to get a pair of those. Like, it's not that they're not, but I don't have the same throat. And I actually don't mind it. Like, I love going in and just being me, and not giving a shit about really having to worry about how things run or how things look or what the programming is or any of the stuff that I used to worry about. It was such a big relief. Yeah, and it was also time. I mean, to go back to your original question, like I was just fed up with having to deal with the city and permits and signs and parking and scheduling and getting coaches to take different classes and then figuring out how to do a price increase and how to, like all those things the price increase still is something that any business has to deal with. But the physicalness of that business it just worn on me. I was just tired of it.
Yeah, it's a tough thing. I mean, as tough as I tried to be and as much bravado as I would try to show, it's like every time someone canceled on you, it was like a little bit of your soul.
Right?
Yeah.
Totally.
It did wear on me eventually. And, eventually I think with a lot of people, what happens is something personally happens in their life where they can't handle those little stresses anymore. That was a big thing for me. It was like 2016 was just a shit year. And all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? I can't be the same guy. I can't walk in with a huge smile every day and do the song and dance. And that was a big part of it for me. But, I also saw, like you did, I saw, potential in a different area that I was drawn to and passionate about. So I'm curious, Andy, the title of this show is The Future of Fitness. Mm-hmm. You're now leveraging a lot. You're in the tech world, right? Whether you like it or not.
Yep, I am.
How are you seeing? Yes, you are. How are you seeing technology changing the industry now? Have you made any?
Well, I think there's a misnomer that technology is changing the industry. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, you've got to pick up the fucking dumbbell. I mean, you can't. Your iPhone's not a dumbbell. I mean, as much as you'd like to maybe think it might be. I fall into the trap of not making the time to do the very simple things that it takes to stay in decent shape and to move. And there's no substitute for that. There are reminders and there are high-tech tools that you can, you download the 7-minute workout app and you can, they're all great. It's another version of Curves. It's another version of, and I'm not downgrading Curves. If Curves is your thing and it gets you to work out, great. Whatever gets you to do it. I bought a Peloton for my wife for Christmas. And, I'm not a huge spinner. I don't use it as much as I don't use it. I used it quite a bit the first few weeks because it was kind of fun and new. But if that's something that blows your dress up and gets you to do it, fantastic. I think tech can be very, very helpful if it's used well, but it doesn't replace getting up and getting off the couch, taking a walk, and shutting off the tech.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a weird thing, I mean, and look, the funny thing is I'm teched out. I mean, I don't have it on right now, but I wear an Oura ring, and I have a Garmin Phoenix 5, and I fucking love that shit. I love it. But it's a distraction if you spend more time looking at the pretty pictures and looking at the daily stats than if you do actually spend living your life. And I think it's one of the big messages that we try to bring out in the Whole Life Challenge is this is about having the courage to take daily action, and it doesn't have to be long action. In fact, it can be really, really short action, but it counts. And tech is too much automation. We talked once to a developer about integrating Fitbit or some of the trackers into the Whole Life Challenge. And my big fear with anything like that is if you automate too many of those things and you automate too many of the tasks, suddenly you lose. Kind of like how in writing they say that the more times you write something, the more it kind of burns into your brain. Well, the more times you actually look at how you're doing, so it's not automatic, the more you start seeing, oh shit, I only walked. I mean, step count can be good. I only walked 2,000 steps today. But if it's automatic, you go into your watch and you try to scroll through, and I don't know, something's missing from that. It's looking at it versus being with it for me.
Yeah.
So
have you read the book Deep Work? Have you read that one?
No.
Okay, so I'm reading it right now, and it's made me incredibly aware of the last 2 days of how, like, when I sit down, I have alerts going from my hip chat, I have emails, I have Facebook, I have Instagram, and it's just made me aware that I'm incredibly distracted. The only time I'm probably not distracted during the week is when I'm actually interviewing people, because here,
you shut everything off.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here with you.
I got my notifications turned off. I got everything turned off. So, yes, totally.
And it's just the awareness is starting to build. And it's only been 3 days since I started reading the book. It's an audio book, I'll be honest. I don't actually read. But,
Do you listen to it while you're skiing?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes.
Nice.
Whenever I can, yeah. I hate when people try to talk to me on the chairlift whenever I'm listening to my...
Because I'm trying to listen to you. Shut up, man. Hey,
I'm that guy.
Wait a second. You're that guy. Tech is getting in your way, Eric.
Yeah, it is. I know. I need to let go. Anyway, so I'm getting to your point, is like there's this awareness factor. It's almost like you have to be consciously aware of the distraction. I don't know if that's the same point you're making, but it's what I'm getting.
Well, it's interesting. I was watching myself because I do a weekly workout video series called the Living Room Workout Series. And I was filming one, and I pretty much do it in one take. Like I don't want to repeat a workout. And the only things I retake are usually the introductions. And I'm in the middle of this introduction, and I'm probably 2/3 of the way through. And I remember I had set my Phoenix to do to time my workout for me, so I get the heart rate and all the stuff. And I forgot about that. And when you put it in that mode, it starts to, I think, to save power, it will take itself out of the mode, but it gives you these warnings, like going into power save mode, and I heard that thing buzz and ding, and I can go back and watch the video. I can see it immediately take me out of the flow of what I was in. Yeah. It wasn't enough to make me start over, but I was able to recover. But if that happens every time that you get a buzz or a ding or a distraction on your phone, if that's really what's happening, I can see where you never get deep work done. You're always distracted, and it's not good.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's just so pervasive in life, and the point of, not to talk too much about the book, but the revelations I got from it is that the importance as we move into the future and more automation start coming in, or, AI starts taking over things that humans used to do, which it's happening now, right? It's already happening. The need for people who do deep style work, people who are artists in some way, whether they be writers or podcasters or people who are doing something that is, pushing the human race forward, is going to become more and more rare, and it's going to become more and more important.
Well, like deep thinking, how about just that? Like, you don't even have to be an artist. You can just need to sit and think. And how we've lost, people don't even do, I'm not pointing at anybody else besides me. I don't necessarily shut things up. I have, but it's a practice I have to be very diligent to do. One of the ways I find a really good way to do that is to go into my car, and I turn my car into a little studio, and I shut everything off, and I go to town in my car. It's a very weird thing, because I could do it in my office, but I don't.
That's interesting. I would freeze if I did that.
What?
I would freeze. It's -9.
You would freeze. Yeah, I'm in Southern California. That's not a big deal here.
Yeah. So let's face forward a little bit.
You can turn the engine on, Eric. You can turn the heat on. Okay.
That's smart.
Burn gas.
That's genius. I just be sitting. God, I wish Andy was here.
I could warm this car up. I wish there was some way to warm this car up. I need to light a fire. I'll just light a fire in the back seat. You've lost it, man. You've lost it.
I did. So let's face forward a little bit. Tell me, what does the next 2 years look like for Andy Petranek and the Whole Life Challenge and what you're up to now?
I think if you're an entrepreneur, you're always thinking about, how do I replace myself? Like in the current job, what are the most boring and mundane things I'm doing today? And how do I reinvent, find somebody else to do those jobs, and what might be lurking around the next corner? And sometimes you have to get rid of the things you're doing in order for you to free up the space for you to create something new. There might not be something new. And that's a scary thing. If you're a founder, or even whatever, doesn't matter what your position is. If you're used to being busy at work, and suddenly you hire someone else to do the busyness stuff, what do you do? And what do you fill that with? And I think that's really what I've been kind of working on now, without knowing I was working on it. I started working with a personal brand coach about 8 months ago. He was actually on my podcast. His name is Richard James. Okay. And I remember him telling me, he's like, Andy, at some point you're gonna have to make a decision between what is the brand of Andy Petranek? Is it Whole Life Challenge, or is it Andy Petranek? And he didn't tell me the answer, but it took about 3 or 4 weeks for it to seep in, and I was like, God, the brand is Andy Petranek. How can I separate from myself? I can't. So I started taking action as I tend to do. I tend to move from idea to action, as opposed to letting those ideas just slip away. And I built a website, and now I have andypetranek.com, and I'm rebranding the podcast. Actually, it was called the Whole Life Challenge podcast, and now it's going to be called the Andy Petranek podcast.
Awesome.
And started a newsletter where I just share real tidbit, succinct things that I'm learning and growing from, and once a month with people that want to be on the list, and they can subscribe to that on andypetranek.com. And I'm just kind of stepping out from behind the brand Whole Life Challenge. I've kind of created all these brands that I've been behind since I renamed the gym from Petranek Fitness, where I was out in front, to CrossFit LA. I've basically been behind all these brands and very kind of unknown, like in the big world, in the big scheme of things. There was the baseline workout. If any of your listeners have ever done the baseline workout, the CrossFit baseline workout, that's the Andy Petranek baseline workout that now, like, thousands, God knows how many freaking people. If I just thought at the time to call it the Petranek baseline, boy, that would have been smart. But I didn't do that. So I think it's time to start just stepping out from behind that and stepping. And that takes a lot of courage. I'm not That's not a natural, and do not gravitate toward wanting limelight and wanting to be up front. I feel like there's a Marianne Williamson quote that always gets me, where she talks about, who are we not to let our greatness shine? And for me, greatness shining has always felt like, chest thumping, like, look how great I am, like bravado and ego. And it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. And that's kind of the area in which I'm pushing myself into. That's the risk. That's the uncomfortable area that I'm moving into now.
That's awesome.
And I don't know what that's gonna bring. I don't know what it's gonna look like. I don't know if 2 years from now I'm speaking, or I'm, I don't see separating from the Whole Life Challenge. I freaking love what we do, and I want to keep building it and growing it. I'd love it to be a global phenomenon at some point. I mean, it is a global phenomenon now, but it's relatively small in the world of fitness. I'd love to have 100,000 people in a challenge. That would be really cool.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Well, I think what you generally come across as is somebody who wants to help people, and you really do. And I think that's not ego, that's not bravado, that's just something that the world needs. And I'm excited to see more Andy Petranek out there. So
cool.
There's a lot of ways, obviously, people can get you, the Whole Life Challenge, your Andy Petranek website, your podcast, the Whole Life Challenge podcast. But if people are interested in just talking to you, they're like, wow, that guy resonates with me, or I've done the baseline workout, I want to talk to that guy.
Yeah, I mean,
your choice things to say about that workout. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
The easiest ways are, Instagram. My handles are very basic, Andy Petranek. I mean, no surprise there. Same with Twitter, same with Facebook. They can always shoot me an email at andy@andypetranek.com. I get all my email. I don't have an assistant that screens my emails. So I'm not necessarily punctual on replies with people that I don't know. So I apologize in advance if you send me an email and I don't get back to you. You can ping me again. I have no problem with you pinging me 2 or 3 times, because there's just it's very difficult in the world of, I've learned this skill of ruthless prioritization. I haven't learned it. I'm learning it. Yeah. And that means things don't get done. And that means some people don't get replied to. And I have to let go of that. That's the challenge also, to let go of those things.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for everything that you've helped me out with along the way. Thank you for the help that you've given the fitness industry. And I'm sure everybody who's done the Whole Life Challenge, you touched their life, I'm sure they'd like to say thank you as well. So I'll say it for them. So,
thanks, thank you.
Yeah, man, Andy, it's a pleasure having you on, and I'm excited to see what you're up to next.
Looking forward to being on again, maybe sometime in the future, when I got something new to share.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Hey, fitness fans, don't leave yet. This is your host, Eric Malzone, and I want to personally thank you for your support and listening to the Future of Fitness podcast and interview series. If you have a few minutes, I would greatly appreciate if you went to iTunes and gave us a favorable rating, as well as go to our YouTube channel and subscribe there. That'd be fantastic. If you know of anybody who'd be a great fit for this show as a guest, please hit me up at eric@fitnessmarketingalliance.com. That's Eric with a C. Also, I have 3 questions for you. Number 1, are you a fitness professional who's been in the industry for over 7 years? Question number 2, do you have an online revenue stream or multiple online revenue streams? Question number 3, are you ready to break loose from your local market and take advantage of all of the opportunity out there in the online world? If you are, I want you to go to fitnessmarketingalliance.com/mastermind. This will lead you to our Level Up Mastermind group and all the information that you need to know. This is a group for high-level thinkers within the industry who are ready to break free. So go check it out. It's fitnessmarketingalliance.com/mastermind. Let us know if you have any questions. Thank you again for listening. I greatly appreciate your support. We'll keep it up from our end as well.